Hey, and welcome to another episode of the Art of Braids podcast. I'm your host, Karen Tenord, and I'm excited about today's guest. We're talking about a topic I hear about all the time, setting boundaries for mental health. And today's guest is Asha Tarry, founder of the amazing brand Life Coach Asha. And since today's topic is about setting boundaries for mental health, who better to talk about it? So I remember, like, for me, it's just basically like over giving. I would just do things for people, and then I'm very like tired and drained, and all of that. And then I would feel kind of like resentful because I'm like, okay, these people aren't doing the same for me, or I wouldn't get any type of recognition for it or gratitude. It'd just be like I'm overdoing it, and then I'm mad at them until I took therapy, and it was just like, okay, are you telling people? Are you saying what it is you want? What is it that you want? Like, I started becoming accountable for myself. Like, wait, okay, so people are treating me how I'm allowing them to treat me. And until I was able to kind of like have that self-awareness for myself, um, I was continuously being disrespected or just disrespecting myself. And then when I started establishing and setting boundaries, I was also able to respect other people's boundaries because I understood what it does for people's mental health. It's like, okay, this is what you can tolerate. So it's like mental health for me is big. So okay, I won't make y'all wait anymore. Let's welcome Asha Tarry. So, Asha, thank you so much for joining us today. Your time and brand are very important to us. I'm excited to have you. But before we get started, I know you, but my listeners don't. So I just want you to share your story because we all do have a story. So share your background and what it is you do in your business.
Well, thank you, Karen. I'm so elated to be here. It's really, really good to be with you again and see you. So thank you for your audience allowing me to join you guys. And yeah, as you mentioned, I'm Asha Tarry. I try to keep it really simple. I don't want it to feel frightening for people to get near to a therapist. So I am a therapist by training. I'm also a certified life coach, and I work with small business owners who have a wellness brand to help them to expand their brand around developing a business so that they can enjoy and live a life that they design. I'm also a long-time activist and mental health advocate, and I am a Brooklyn native. Um, my family comes from different parts of the world, and as I've lived and traveled around the world, one of the things that I've noticed is no one is immune from mental illness. I think even when we think about people who live in other countries who don't have the language for terms that we use here in North America around mental illness or mental health, we still see it. And so I was introduced really young in my life to people who were challenged by all kinds of traumas. And on the outside, it could appear that they were thriving. And when you got close to them, you could see that there were parts of their life that they were really struggling with, but maybe in silence. And so, through several different journeys of becoming a helping professional, starting out with going to nursing school and thinking I was going to be a nurse, and then transitioning over to social work and developing my career as a psychotherapist social worker. I now own a private practice. I have owned my small business for it'll be 9 years this April.
Congrats.
And thank you. And during the pandemic, I went 100% remote. I'm still remote so that I can actually work with more people. So, as a therapist, I can work with people in the state in which I reside, which is New York. As a certified life coach, I can work with people globally. And so, I've been growing my work in the last couple of months again to actually allow room for people to do more coaching, mental health and fitness coaching with me. And that's been a great joy.
Oh, well, congrats and thank you so much for all the work that you do. I can imagine how like much you take on as a mental therapist and a life coach, right? Like you're hearing everybody's story and you kind of pouring into them. And it's just like that toll that it will take, like, kind of happen, like the toll that it takes on the person who's listening and taking in all of that. I could imagine because I know you do have to replenish yourself at the same time. So, like, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. You learn how to manage differently, I think, as you become more experienced.
Mhm,
And it's been over 2 decades. Gosh, time's going by really quickly that I became a professional helper. And in the beginning, absolutely, you want to be a savior and you want to do all the things right. It's very textbooky in the beginning, trying to apply what you've learned. But when you work with people, you got to be where people are. No
mhm,
textbook can actually train you in how to do that. And the more you become authentic to who you are and the kind of work you want to provide for people, you recognize that you're not a savior, you're not an expert in anyone else's life.
mhm.
And being a human being foremost is really the foundation for doing really good work with people. So, yeah, absolutely. You feel what people pain is like, but if you have healthy boundaries, you don't enmesh yourself with that. So you can go from one client in one session to the next
Mhm.
without feeling overloaded necessarily. But you can, if you're a feeling person, and I am a highly sensitive person, you can perceive things even when people are not able to locate suffering and pain in their body or to verbalize emotional language yet. But you have to be able to have your own health practices and
Mhm.
support system to sort of cleanse yourself of that each day. And like you said, to find ways to restore yourself, which is what I do.
Oh, okay. See, I knew I was onto something because sometimes I'd be like, all right, that's it. That's all I can take. And I'll go into my little hermit self and then, come back out a little bit more energized because that could be a lot. So thank you so much for sharing your story. And so I want to get into the topic, which is setting boundaries for mental health. And when we're dealing with braiders or people who want to go into businesses, it's really, uh people it's a lot to go into business for yourself. And one thing with braiders is so much stuff like people don't think that's a job, right? Like in family it's just kind of like a hobby almost. And there's a lot of braiders that aren't like licensed or put that investment in them. And I wanted to say, like, start with why is mental health important in business?
That's a great beginning. As you said, people who are receiving a service, especially in certain industries of service, don't necessarily see the connection between business, providing business, and also being the person who is servicing in the business. And a business is the entity that people see and go to receive the care that they are looking for. But the person providing the service in the business is a human being. And sometimes we don't see in our communities people who look like us that also are running a thriving business. And so we feel very familiar with each other. And that extended familial feeling that takes place in the way we care for each other can overshadow that there are things that are going on with the person who's in the business providing the service that needs to that requires people to have a certain limit
Mm,
with how they function in that particular service. So, for example, I would imagine doing the business that you do, if people see you on the street when you're not working, they probably approach you talking about hair. You
yes.
know, at some point, even if they greet you and they're excited to see you, they're going to get to, when's your next available opening, or when are you going to be back in the shop, or how come I haven't, been able to book you in several months? Because people see you as the thing that you do a lot of times first before they see you as a person. And so the work that I do, especially with small business owners who own a wellness practice, is just that. It's helping them to see themselves as an individual, as a human being, not as a role that they're performing in, not as a title that they've assumed, and to set parameters because it's really easy in providing service to people to get enmeshed again in what's happening with other people or how they're doing. And so providing a service like you do requires some psychology. It requires you to have certain skills to be able to manage people, their challenges, customer service, all the things that even business school probably couldn't teach one. But if we, as providers of a service, we have to set certain standards, excuse me, and limits for people to remember that there are certain times that we're available for work. It has an end date, it has an ending time.
Yes.
Because we do the thing doesn't mean that we're available 24 hours for the thing that we do, that there are other people, valuable things in our lives, places we have to go, things we have to take care of for ourselves that come with being, again, a person. And I think it's very natural for people to associate what you do with how they view you, but it's our job to remind them that there's more to life and what we provide, right? And more of what we see as important to us and matters to us than just how we perform in a role for people.
Mm. Amen. Yeah, it is. It's like oof, the setting boundaries and mental health. Like I was working and I was like, do not disturb is like my best friend now. Right. Like if I get a date, I'm like, this actually the beginning of this year, I was like, all Sundays are mine. Like I do what I want to do. I'm not working. I'm I'm doing Sunday for me. Right. If anybody asks, oh, so you working Sunday? No. Can you do this on Sunday? Oh, is it a Sunday? No. Oh no. I know I can't do it. Why? It's a Sunday. Like because every other day I'm like, okay, I can work, I can do this other stuff. But it's like the minute you set that boundary, people with no boundaries, they have a problem. It's like, I'm not, I don't have a day off. I'm like, well, that's you. Like, and that's why you're tired. That's why you're stressed out because you don't give yourself the um the right to rest, right? Like the right to do something for yourself. And I'm like, when am I going to do that for myself? I got to do my hair sometimes. I got to watch a funny movie or go out or go hang out with my family. Like those are the times I'm just doing things for me. So I've established that January 1st. I was there like, oh no, I'm taking my Sundays. I'm taking my Sundays.
I
Um,
love that. I love that for you.
Thank you. And this is one of the questions. I don't think I sent it to you, but I've had people who they'll be like, um, people need mental health. And I'm like, everybody has mental health. It's just a level, like, you have good overall mental health, and then there's mental illness that seeps in. But there's so many people that think having mental health is like an issue. Like it's just like that's not the problem. We're striving for mental health.
Exactly. So, because the terms mental health and mental illness have become integrated into everyday jargon, a lot of lay people have a difficult time distinguishing the difference. And often, just in English vernacular, I think we interchange words a lot and make one mean another. So you're spot on with what you told them. Mental health is the absence of illness. Okay, that's
Mhm.
the best, simplest way I can put that. We have a baseline of health, whatever that may be, when we come into the world. Usually, if there haven't been significant traumas, let's say at birth, you start at your baseline health right there. Coming into the world, being able to have automatic things occur. You can breathe, you can blink, you can swallow, etc. If everything goes okay during that particular time. And as you age, what impacts your mental health is the environment, nature versus nurture, what comes through at birth, but also what the people who are the village that's supporting your growth and development perform in care of you or lack of care for you as you go into the school system and you develop friendships and you become a lover and all of the other things. you're still being impacted by environment, people, how you respond, adapt, etc.
Mm.
And so, based on your abilities to do some of those things and to be able to survive in a world which a lot of things are beyond your control, will determine your level of health, mental health. When you have challenges in functioning at school, in relationships with your peers or cohort, independent of that, taking care of yourself, if there are challenges in being able to function at a level on your own or with others that helps you to thrive, then there may be signs of mental illness or mental health challenges. And so, excuse me, I think so many people now overuse terms like, well, that person is struggling with mental health, that person has a mental illness, without having the knowledge and information, adequate information to determine that.
Right.
So even using trauma sometimes is overly saturated in our language. Everything that people experience as a big emotion now is traumatic. That's not accurate. There are other words to describe having big feelings or experiencing big emotions before you can reach a level of whether or not you're able to cope and to reconcile your experiences. So it's really important that we help people to practice being careful with their words,
Mm.
because someone who is challenged with a mental health disorder or a mental illness, also as it's called, may feel invalidated by your pointing to something that is not accurately coined mental illness. So, for example, you have to experience in our criteria that we as clinicians determine illness or disorders, you have to, in some ways, function at a level that is below development for your age, culture, um, in a way that sees you as having a period of time where those challenges show up. So for some disorders, like for example, depression, there has to be 2 consecutive weeks of symptoms of lack of
Mm.
interest in doing things, in difficulty sleeping, enjoying pleasure, before you can even say someone is clinically depressed. But
Mm.
you will hear people say all the time, I'm depressed.
That's
Okay,
Google.
yeah, okay, says Google, says, your own experience, which is valid too. But maybe you're also experiencing something like melancholy. Maybe you're experiencing something like boredom. Maybe
Low
you're
iron.
experiencing, yeah, low iron levels, medical conditions that can mimic symptoms of depression, absolutely. But then there are people who have other experiences that might last for 6 months or longer. And there's a series of criteria that we have to identify in clinicians asking questions with people to even determine if it's accurate to coin something a disorder. So there's a lot of gray area.
Mhm.
And I think sometimes, not to discount that people can see things, sometimes I think too many people who are not trained in this field of mental health feel privileged to call something a thing when they can't understand it, or
Right.
they lack empathizing with it. So I often try to get people to be really careful about using terms at times that, although they can see things, may not be appropriate to what they're seeing, because it is invalidating for people who are actually experiencing symptoms of mental illness. I hope that helps.
It does. It does. Okay, so we'll follow up with the new question. What are what are mm, what are signs that enough is enough?
I'm going to ask you to clarify first if
In
that is, yeah, tell me.
Okay, so what is signs that enough is enough in business? Like when you're dealing with friends or family, as a new entrepreneur, like saying, okay, where the episode is about how to set and establish boundaries. It's like, okay, what when do you feel like, okay, now I should just draw this line because obviously, when is
Hmm.
enough is enough?
Okay. So I thought that's how you meant it. So reaching someone's limit.
Yes.
So here's the thing about having been traumatized, and this is why I'm going to start this way. It's not an overstatement to say that people of African descent are born into this world traumatized. Why? Because of the way in which we came to be, not just the simple nature of the act of sex and producing a child, but just everything we know about how we came into North America. That lives with us. Those lived experiences get passed down. It runs in our DNA in terms of how certain things manifest, our coping skills, how we relate to each other and ourselves. And the reason I say that first and foremost is because I see this every day in the work that I do with people, but I see it every day in people that I know personally. A lot of us don't know what our personal limits are until someone provokes us. And so, because of different scenarios, again, going back to environment and nurturing, if you as a child were raised in a family where people were not able to give the time to cultivating your emotional intelligence, you may have been taught through witnessing someone that you grew up with offset their emotions to please other people. So
Mm.
you start to imitate that. Or you may have grown up in an environment that was unstable or violent or lacked consistency. And so you learn how to adapt to other people's tone or temperature so that you keep the peace. So you placate, you compensate, you accommodate. And so as that happens, that stays with you as you start relating to your peer group and you learn through your peer relationships how to perform.
Mm.
So that then translates into when you get older and if you have a business, if you've been a people pleaser or a placater or an accommodator, you may not know until you have imploded enough that certain things get on your nerves
Right.
or that you take on too much before you speak up or you don't introduce limits early in your relationship so you don't explain at the onset of providing a service your hours, your rates. That happens a lot when I work with people of color in business. They don't talk about their rates early enough.
Right. Because
Um,
it's like, I don't want to scare them off. Right.
but you're doing something for them and you're doing something against yourself in doing that. You're already at that point setting up a relationship where you're not being clear with people.
Mm.
And that is valuable to know. And that is something to investigate if you're doing that, because to ask yourself, why would you set yourself up to not talk about receiving compensation for a service that you're trained and skilled in providing?
Okay.
Okay. And why would you set someone else up to wait until the service is complete to then have to expect to pay you a number that they may not have expected to pay when you tell them what that service is, what that service costs.
Mm.
So, because of those things, because we're coming along through life having modeled after people we were raised by, we've related to people in particular ways to learn how we should be. When we get to the place that we have a business, we carry out the same function in our personal relationships as we do in our professional ones. And we sometimes struggle if we're not acutely aware of our own limit setting, what, may not be for us enough or what gets to be too much. And I think everyone in business should have a coach that works with them and a therapist because to be in service to other people requires being present foremost to yourself, your needs, how you respond, relate to things, what you're aware of, what you're not aware of, and unconsciously doing, and how that may either get in the way of you providing a service with care to yourself first, or how it prevents you from being authentic and being honest and direct with people in a way that's nurturing to yourself first and provides a standard of practice for people to come to expect from you.
Mm. Oh, listen, if this wasn't a word, I don't know. Because I think I've also heard the saying where how you show up in one area of your life is how you show up in all of them. And I'm telling you, when I took therapy, I was like, I had to revisit, I had to look at my whole self differently. Like I was like, so now I question everything that I do. Not to say like I'm doubting everything. It's more of like, could you have done this better? How could you do this? Like, did they hear you? So my thing in therapy was about or my goal was to be more assertive and communicate better because I did end up with the whole like, don't they see what I'm doing? Like, don't they see I'm tired? Don't they see, and it's just like, okay, they see it, but I'm not complaining. I'm not saying anything. I'm just taking it. And they're just looking at it, okay, oh, here's some more because you did that. And I'm just kind of like, wait, no. So no became my best friend in business. Not everybody is my client. Like I had to set that boundary where I'm just like, if it became a headache, if it disturbed my peace or my, or challenged my mental health in any kind of way, I was like, nope, I can see the future. Nope. So okay, so now we talked about um when enough is enough. Okay, so what methods can help business owners take care of their mental health?
Starting back with what we said a few moments ago, and I want to point to something you just said, which is knowing when to say no. No is a complete sentence. No does not have to sound like an aggressive no. No does not also have to include an explanation.
Mm,
Um, no can come out a lot of different ways, but what you said was if it's going to cost you your mental health, or if it's going to get on your nerves, and again, that speaks to sometimes we don't know how far we can let people get with us. It's important to establish in the beginning what standards of practice we have, and that is encompassing of how we care for us. And you can run a business that is self-nurturing. And so that looks like deciding before you engage people, what are the hours you're going to work? What are the times you're going to turn notifications on? What are the days that you're going to respond to calls or requests? When are you going to block off time for vacation? How are you going to set your rates, and when are you going to increase them? How are you
mm,
going to have that conversation? Um, how well do you know yourself to say you're willing to risk losing clients who will not be able to afford your services anymore? All of those things are the ways you establish in the beginning your standard of practice, your self caring practice, and showing people what it is that you respect about the work that you do so that it is a respectable service. And I see that so many people struggle with doing those things effectively because, especially if you're a person who identifies as a nurturing person, we often want to give off an impression that we can handle it all, that we care so much, that we don't want to turn people off. People will be turned off regardless. People will be turned off because
exactly.
everyone is not your ideal client. People will be turned off because they think a person who looks like you shouldn't charge a certain rate. Okay,
Come on.
all
Yes.
all kinds of things, right? So ask me that question again.
Okay, you want me to ask it?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay. What methods can you help business owners take care of their mental health?
all of those things. Get intimately acquainted with yourself.
Mm,
That doesn't look like something I can sit here and tell your entire audience is going to look the same. Every individual is just that, an individual. So someone can say, oh, and this happens, this has happened with me in the past. Oh, I wasn't expecting your rate to be. So and so only charges so. Great. You should call so and so.
Yeah,
You know what I'm
why are you here?
saying? Right. You should, you saw such and such on TV. That's TV. That's entertainment. I'm not an entertainer. This is not going to be a clip of your life for the gram. So again, get intimately acquainted with yourself, and you can do that by blocking time in your day to prioritize your wellness. So that means decide for yourself when you're going to start your day and block off a time so that you don't check your email or you do not respond to text or your phone is on notifications off or silent, right? Or do not disturb. Block times off in the day to take a break and have a meal where you're not looking at your phone or responding to emails or sitting at your desk and working. Take time off to live in your life so you can have experiences that fill you up so you can return to work feeling restored, not angry and aggravated that
Mm,
you're burning out and people are getting on your nerves because they're doing the most. No. So that has to be subjective. And if I were coaching a small business owner into how to do that, I'm going to work with the person before me and their circumstances, and I'm going to explore with them the ways in which we're going to build in those practices so that business will work around their life, not their life working around work.
mm, yeah. Um, and for anybody who's listening, it's like, okay, once you establish that, right? And some people don't like take it. Yeah, like you were saying, like establish like what is it? Are you willing to lose clients and things like that, or job opportunities, right? Like when I started realizing that I was losing my smile,
Mm,
oh,
your
I
great
stepped away.
smile.
Yeah, like I'm like, my smile is my signature,
Uh-huh, it
right?
is.
And people are like, wait, where's your smile? I'm like, yo, that's when I know, no, this is not for me. I'm gonna take a step back. I'm gonna leave and lead with grace, right? Like I'm like, okay, thank you, but right now you taking more than what I can afford at this point, right? So it's like being willing to let things go and walk away. Like your mental health is, like they say, wealth. Like if you don't have that, like how can you really function or make the great decisions in the business or know how to properly charge or know your worth, right? Like it's like, okay, that's my worth. But I really appreciated you saying like established in the beginning of this was a, I think you answered it prior, the question before, like establishing your prices and being transparent from the beginning so you don't waste your time or their time. Like it's like
Yeah,
but I think I struggle with that too because I'm like, it's so many people who have it. I don't know if it's that trauma, but it's still like when you hear people hear your prices and they kind of go, huh? But they come to you because they know you're great, right? And it's just kind of like, wait, that's how much. So it's like it hits you because it's like, should I not be charging this? So
I
you
got so
know,
much to say, girl. I'm
I
gonna try
know.
to I'm gonna try to capture it real quick if I can. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay. You said so many amazing things to unpack. I'm going to try to talk to about two or three of them really briefly. The induced shame, and shame comes from the outside. It is something that other people are doing to you that you take on as a personal defense. So shame is not innate. You're not born with it. It happens as a result of you living in the world and people projecting something onto you that you then take on. That's why people feel guilty about certain things they do in business, like setting limits on start and end days or prices, not raising them, etc. Over explaining to people why they charge what they do, all of those things. And when you are induced with that shame because someone came to you undereducated about your service and what that service price rate is across a median of people who do what you do at the skill level that you do it across demographics,
Mm-hmm.
right? that is not a fault of your own because they didn't do the research. And that's why in the work that I do, both in therapy and mostly even now because I'm doing more coaching, is I don't take on that burden for people. I tell people, even my existing clients, when I refer them to another service provider, vet that provider. Don't take my word for it that this is going to be your perfect fit. Go out there and look at their Instagram account, look at the way they write, get the Google reviews, go on their website, do the work to vet and find out if what they charge is comparable to what other people in the industry with their years of experience charge. Here's the second piece. With skills comes experience. With people who love what they do comes people who are experienced investing in more training to become more experienced. And so that comes with a price point because you had to pay money, you had to invest time to be trained, to study your craft and continue to up level your craft. For every situation that you go into, that is an investment for you to provide an even better service for people, a better experience for people. That helps you to stand out as a service provider so that you can charge those rates. What people see as the thing that you're doing is not what they're simply paying for. It is all of the things that it took for you to get here, to continue to invest in those credits that you took to take those courses, to provide for all the people they don't see
Mm.
that reached out to you, that took your payment, that booked your appointment, that turns on the lights. They don't see all of that because, again, they don't see this as a business. They see you as a thing providing a service and they can't consolidate the two. So, lastly, what I say to people is this: look at your own trauma in questioning my service and my rate because you're trying to, if you stay in working on assuaging me with your feelings, to negotiate my rate and think about how that act is oppressive and harmful to me.
Mm.
That you would even stand before me or call or email me and go on about what I'm charging and what other people are charging or how surprised and stunned you are. You could absolutely be surprised and stunned and still pay me what I charge because my services are that good. My services are that good that you could go out and ask other people about it. You could go out and ask people who have healed in certain areas of their life to see the evidence of how well I do provide the service that I provide. So I don't need to do all that talking for people. And I try not to nowadays. Sometimes because people are still undereducated about what I do, yes. But do I go at length to tell them? No. What I do instead is market my services to and to demonstrate the outcomes that they're going to receive in working with me. And
Mm.
that speaks volumes to what I charge and the numbers of years that I've been doing what I'm doing. If they don't understand that, you have to go out and do that research. I'm not going to explain all of that to you.
There you go. Okay, that would thank you. Thank you. I was like, okay, I feel healed. I am not shameful anymore. Like I'd be like, oh, this is the price. And if you come back, it probably be higher. Like, I mean, you know what I'm saying? So
Yes, I do.
now when you deal with outside people, that's outside people, right? That's people who don't know you yet. They didn't research. They haven't been healed from you. And with my practices like painless braider, right? Like nobody else is really painless braiding and not using gel and all this extra stuff. It's like it's the hair care for me. Like um putting that back in braiders and if I'm speaking to the audience who are braiders and looking to better their business and provide a amazing service for their clients because there's a big growing issue with hair loss in the community, right? So you have that and you have all this accolade and all the skills and the investment that you put in with school and training and stuff like that. And you got all these other people. Now you got family and friends who want your service, but they want to support, but at a limit, right? Like, how do you set boundaries with family and friends? With when working with family, yeah, with working with family and friends or friends.
Mm. Well, one, I've worked with family and it got on my nerves. To be honest, it, it got on my nerves too much, so I didn't work with family anymore.
Oh,
I think there are reasons that we work with our family, and once again, that goes back to investigating your motivation for hiring your family. People hire family because they want to reinvest in like business minded people. They want to invest in their community, they want to invest in their legacy. And I understand that. But sometimes the people in your family don't do the things that you do, didn't get the training that you receive. And you may come across people who in your family have a difficult time taking directions from you.
mm,
That's also going to happen with people who are not related to you. But when people are related to you, they generally are biased to how they feel they should be treated, what they feel privy to,
mm,
what they believe they're entitled to receive as a result of being related to you. And that's a lot of stuff that comes with the price for utilizing your family ongoing. I could say it might be helpful in the beginning or periodically because you're dealing with all that extra stuff. And I'm a person who really believes in limiting my stress. And if people I know are going to stress me out because I know who those people are, I'm betraying myself if I take on the role of trying to save people.
oh,
And again, that goes back to investigating why you would decide to hire your family. So I couldn't say to do anything differently. I think what's shocking for a lot of people who are related to people who work with them is the idea that you can show up in a role in a different way they're not used to seeing you. So to take directions, to make sure people are following the code of practice that you want to set. So dress code, timeliness, requests for times of leave, whatever it is, all of those things that are parameters so that your business can function optimally
mm,
are things that sometimes people who are not prepared to receive directions from you are going to struggle with. You have to know that. And when you don't know it and you see it because it evolves, you have to make some tough decisions about what to do.
mm.
So I generally veer away from working with family because I don't want to deal with that kind of stress. There's other stress to deal with in business, and I want to limit my stress.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, I've worked with family before, and at first, it was good. But then, like you said, with the timely, or I come when I come, or I do this when I come, or they just feel more like the entitlement of I can do this because I'm family, and not seeing it as this is the person's business, this is the person's brand. And like it's just like even receiving services. As if I'm like, oh, how much am I supposed to, I'm paying that? Like you get like I had a family member um who purchased, well, booked me, right? And we call her a certain name, right? Growing up, we only call her one name. And she used her real name. Now I was like, okay, I'm gonna go. And the person was all the way in Long Island. I knew my, cousin lived in Noette, but I didn't know the name of her real name. You grow up, you just using the easy name. So I'm there like, oh, okay, this person booked, they put the deposit. It was no issue. I went to her, she opened the door. I'm like, girl, like it was crazy because she didn't ask for a discount. She didn't say, hey, can you do my
Mm-hmm.
hair? She went to my site, she booked it. And because she did that,
As she should.
because she did that, I was like, girl, I'm not gonna charge you full. Like
She
it
blew
was
your
the
mind.
yeah, it was the love that she did. Like she didn't expect it. She didn't feel like, hey, I'm gonna try to minimize your work. I just want you to do my hair, and because of that, I just was like, girl, I'm not gonna charge you like that. Like you're my little cousin, right?
So let me
Like
ask you this: what made you decide to not get her to pay you full price because of the way you do business?
be-
Because she
I
blew
don't
your
even.
mind.
Yeah, it was just kind of like the fact that she didn't ask.
Hmm.
and she's like a baby cousin. Like she's one of the youngest. She's literally the youngest. So it was just kind of like I love you for that. Right? Like
Sure, you
other
do.
people, I'm like, nah, pay full price. But I was just like, the fact that you did not ask, and I don't have to, but I just want to.
Absolutely, you were in awe. I get it, and I I do agree that at times that's the beauty of being a small business owner. You can make that personal decision on the spot. You can accommodate for just your willingness to show love and support back to people who do for you. But here's the thing I would say about that. Your way of thinking of your quote unquote little cousin, right, is one perspective you have that I think is associated to assumptions you might be making about her ability to have done the professional things, right? And I would say kudos to your little cousin because that goes to show you if, however, age she is, could follow those steps to do the thing that you require for people to properly attain your services, then anyone else with minimal amount of common sense, right, can do the same. So I think there's different ways to look at it. And I would add that it's one of the most pleasurable things I know personally as a business owner to do when I can give back to people. And that's another thing I think folks don't see as people of color who do this work as service providers is our rates are also what they are in addition to what I said earlier, because we then get to determine how we can do more great work. And sometimes that means what other people are not going to see, which they don't have to, because it's not about showboating. It's like if I charge even the rate that I'm charging because I deserve it and it's comparable to my skill level, age development in this work, years that I've been doing it, et cetera, my specialties too, I can then offer to someone else who can't afford my services a sliding scale or a pro bono service. I can then volunteer my time, which people could have paid me to do something like teach a class. So, in all of those ways, small business owners get to have that kind of creative flexibility that comes with running a small business. So, I just think that that taps on so many different areas that I wanted to just speak to it.
No. And then I'm gonna touch on before I go into the next question. There was also a friend who I have a deposit, right? 24 hours. If you put the deposit down, you lock your date. And because she was a friend, she thought I was joking, right? So she put the thing, I'm like, okay, send out the email, like, you got 24 hours to confirm with the deposit. She didn't. 24 hours, cancellation. And then somebody else booked it. And that person put a deposit. She sent me a message like, hey, I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, but I'm running a business. Like, um, that date is no longer available because somebody else wanted it. So now, right after she did that, she started putting that deposit 24 hours within the 24 hours. So it just was there like, I had to stop playing with, oh, okay, I know. And I only did that because I got burnt, right? Like it was like a friend who, oh, yeah, I'm going to do it. And then calls me like, you know what? I can't do it no more. And I never put a deposit down, right? Like I was just like, so now I was like established, like I'm going to cancel you just like I cancel everybody else. So so it's like in that one with the family part, like I'm like, okay, this person didn't expect it. But in this one, I'm like, the fact that the person was entitled or they felt they could book and pay whenever or cancel whenever, no. So yeah, okay, so let's go. Um, so I wanted to know before we wrap up, I have three light questions that I ask my audience. I mean, my guests. It's really light to keep everything on a positive high, right? To end on a positive high. What is your favorite go-to braided style before? Because I know right now it's all gone. It's all gone. The second is there a book that you recommend that would be great for a starting entrepreneur? And three, are there any new products, projects, or events that you would like to give us the tea on?
Yes. So the last time I saw you, I had braids.
Yes.
Um, and I go through those stages where I grow my hair out. It grows really fast. So in a couple months, I go from a shaved head to a couple of inches, and I love box braids. Absolute favorite. I like them to be, close to waist length. I love to do a flip, you know. So box braids are my faves. Um, there's a book. I hope I get the name correctly, but excuse me, it's a book that I recommend to all my small business owners called You Should Have a Budget. I believe it's titled You Should Have a Budget. I have to double check and send it to you. That book is a small, fast, easy read. It's super important because you do, and I'm always trying to practice, getting better at having a budget. Um,
Mhm.
and what was the last one? I think I missed the last
Are
question.
there any new products, projects, or events that you would like to give us a tea on?
Yeah, so this is an interesting statement to make because probably right before I came on, I would have wanted to promote this, but I'm going to say it anyway. I don't necessarily need to promote it now, but this is just speaking to we're all learning and we're all teaching at the same time. I did an entire month in January of 2023, IG lives 3 or 4 times a week to promote my mental health and coaching work. And so I hadn't taken on any therapy clients in years, still usually don't. That part of my work is pretty full. And so all of January, I just focused on mental health and wellness. I opened up office hours, I took on consult calls, and I spoke to coming into the year wanting to serve more people. Because I'm a pretty rapid manifester, I
Mm.
had put my focus on it, stated it, did a month's worth of promoting that open office hours. I would say out of the handful or so of people who booked the session, a couple came from that. Another came from a Facebook group someone referred them to me. Another couple came from word of mouth referrals. Today, last week, it's so abundant that there's really little to promote at this point. So I would say stay tuned and follow me on the gram at Asha Tarry Mental because when I come back, I am going to again start working towards opening my office hours for more mental health and wellness coaching. What that looks like is short term health and wellness coaching around relationships and career. So, what I do is I help people who have been in relationships with other people to be able to live the way that they choose to live without sacrificing their mental health. And so this means being in relationships in the world with other people and being in relationships with people that you work with doesn't require you to have to put yourself on hold for others
Mm.
or to sacrifice your wellness for others. And so I really work with people around that. And because I did so much work in the pandemic, excuse me, on helping people to recover from hyperproductivity, I spend a lot of my time working with people to get their intuition back online and to rest and recover from burnout. So that's where a lot of people reach out to me for work. So I would say follow my work. Normally, I'm not dealing with allergies and congestion like I am today. So people can go on my page and listen to me speak and hear the work that I do. I do teach online as well on Instagram to just provide free work for people to understand what wellness and mental health and services in mental health look like. But that's probably where I would say if you're looking to work with me, follow me there and get, intimately acquainted with chatting with me online or asking people about me. And then we can set up some time probably in the spring to start taking on clients again. But people are hungry. People are ready for transformation. They
Hmm.
want to live a life that they design and love. They want to trust themselves, hence building back their intuition. And they want to do it in a way that feels right for them, even if that includes letting go of people,
Mm.
toxic
That
people.
part. That part. I
That
mean,
part right there.
elevation requires separation,
Ooh, I like that.
right?
I love that.
I'm just saying, like, you can't take everybody with you. Like it's like a caterpillar and a but like turns into the butterfly. It has to be crystallized and go into this cocoon before. like it has to be
Yeah.
by itself,
Yeah.
to grow
Yeah.
and turn into something so beautiful. You can't do that.
Yeah.
Like, growth, you can't grow in isolation.
Right.
You do need community, but to know
Absolutely.
yourself, you
Yep.
have to be in isolation.
Yeah. And you know what I love about this work that I'm doing now that's very invigorating for me? A couple of things, real quick, is I've been saying this for years, even as a mental health provider, as a therapist, a psychotherapist, this hyper productivity around working is going to kill people. If we don't start slowing down and being conscientious of what we're doing, we're going to mismodel for people what health looks like. Health does not look like saying yes to everything and everyone and being available all the time. This idea that even Black folks have about what health looks like doesn't require me to offset my life so that I could put yours on. It doesn't mean that I'm going to be at your beck and call either. So
Mm,
doing coaching work has been so restorative for me lately because the work is faster paced. And this is what people have a hard time distinguishing between what's therapy versus coaching. Therapy is working on the past traumas so that you can move forward in your life. Coaching is about working on the places that you're presently stuck in so you can move forward in your life. And so we're
mm,
not going to deal with your past. We're going to deal with what's happening right now. I'm going to ask some questions. We're going to dig a little bit, but we're going to work on you're in this place because you may have done these things. I'm going to hold you responsible for that gingerly, but I'm also going to require you to be accountable to yourself in a way that you may not have been. So we're going to talk about action steps each week that you're going to take to move you forward. And there are certain qualifications that people have to meet to work with me to do that. If you come in hemming and hawing, making excuses, that's not my ideal client. So God bless you. I will transfer you to someone else
mm,
or a thing that you can do until you're ready to be transferred to the appropriate people because I do not transfer people to my people if they're not ready.
mm,
So you have to be qualified for that. Every single person I've been working with in the past month that came from a referral or the IG that they saw me doing are people who were either so desperate of wanting change, they were willing to do the recommendations that I advised them. And usually within 2 sessions, people are making great transformations. They are coming back with feeling differently in their body, having more confidence in their decision making, um, feeling a sense of hope, um, becoming more clear about the people that they want to engage. And all that stuff happened in a couple of sessions by getting crystal clear in the consultation as to what transformations are possible with working with me and what areas of their life that they're struggling with that I can acutely assess right there on that first call, and then deciding to work with me and moving forward. And in that first post session from their intake, determining what the goal is so that we know the direction we're going, and then committing on their side to doing the work so that they can see the transformations occur. And when you do that, when you take the recommendations and you move forward with it, you're going to see some things happen in your life. You have to do that by showing up ready to actually commit to doing the work because I'm doing my work. And on the back end, when you don't see me, I am cultivating the coaching specific to your needs to help you to get farther. So my expertise comes into play, my ongoing trainings come into play, the work I'm doing on myself comes into play so that you
mm,
get the best version of me because I'm going to be your partner in the journey towards your transformation.
mm. Yeah. There you go. And I love the fact that that's you right there setting boundaries. It's like, before you come work with me, these are the requirements. Like there is a prerequisite
There you go.
before you can before I can coach you. Like I need to know that you're serious. And people be like, okay. And that kind of weeds out
Mm-hmm.
in business in general. Like it weeds out who's serious. Like, okay, these are and I think that's why people set prerequisites. Like, okay, don't come in here and waste my time.
Yeah, and sometimes things change. Sometimes people end up thinking they want something, and then along the course of doing the work, they don't want it because it's too fearful for them to in relationships that have induced them with shame or disability in some way,
Mm-hmm.
or they don't realize that doing work in a way for themselves is going to require they're changing their environments, changing the people that they associate closely with, doing some things for themselves that they may not have ever done before. But the beauty about this is I'm always in community with those people. So my work is not transactional like that. Yeah, there are transactions we have to make. You pay for a service, we go through the paperwork, I onboard you. But once you're involved in the work with me, you're forever a part of my ongoing village. So I'll come back and maybe offer you a service at a different rate when you're committed to doing work that I'll offer people who are just starting with me because we're building on something here. And that special relationship is ongoing to help you to get to the next level and the next level that you want to aspire to. But I really I love doing this work with people who know that they want the changes and they're willing to adhere to some of the recommendations that I'm going to provide them. And most times the work is coming from them. It's like after they receive the probing questions that I'm asking so that I can point to certain areas that they can't see in themselves, literally in the session, they're like, oh, that's what I should be. That's not coming from me. What's
Mm,
coming from me is the skills that I bring in terms of asking the right questions to elicit from them their innate knowing, their intuition, to
mm,
tell them what it is that they should be doing differently. And when they come back, it's a celebration to say, okay, you did such and such, good for you. How are we going to reward that? So you can
right.
do that again. That's a win.
It is. Okay. Exactly. Accountability and asking those questions. Like, see, I told you I started questioning everything. Like, I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
and then I started making connections on my own. I'm like, wait, that is why I'm, huh. And it's just like, you feel empowered when you can kind of like see where like certain things have stemmed from. Um, like I'm gonna go back to something you said when you was like people be hemming and hawing. And there's a book, right? Who Moved My Cheese about him and ha. And that's definitely about like mental health of where someone is just stuck and not wanting to move because they think everything is gonna be there forever. Uh, I don't have you
I
read
think
that
I've
book?
heard of that book. I love that title. I haven't read it. I heard of it. That's like one more
The
thing I got to add to my book list.
yeah, two of the characters is him and ha.
That is hilarious.
Yeah. And I was like, well, no, that would be perfect. That's a perfect book for it
That
because
is.
and it's a short read. Like it's like literally maybe 5 minutes. But and they have a video for it too. That like it's just so direct, it's impactful, but it's just so simple. Like once that
Practical.
person left that person behind, he left one behind was like, nah, I'm gonna go look for some cheese because obviously we're gonna eat all this cheese or the
Yep.
cheese is gonna spoil and we
Mm.
don't know where it came from. It's just literally here. So we don't see nobody delivering it. So he went
Yeah.
out and left the maze and found more cheese. And that other person basically died where he was. Like he ran out. He basically
Mm.
starved. But it was just like, don't get so comfortable in where you are because things change. Life has
Yeah.
changed,
Yeah.
you know?
You know what? And it's something that you said earlier on. Um, I I want to say this before we have to wrap. To be completely honest with your audience, there is a privileged standpoint that comes with sticking with the thing that you do well to get to the place where today you and I, Karen, can say there are people you have to say no to, there are people you have to let go of, et cetera, et cetera. And that was not always the case in business when I started out. I mean, there were many years where I didn't know clearly the people I should align my work with. There were years where I wasn't comfortable with what I charged, both undercharging or believing that maybe I shouldn't charge what I charge. But I changed that by talking to my colleagues, talking to other business owners, doing my research, etc. So there isn't going to be the same approach all along the journey. You're going to learn what you need as you go through it, and that's the best part about staying open to what I said earlier about you're a teacher and a student,
Mm,
and remain that because the duality is important. You're going to need to humble yourself, learn from your clients what you need, to do to be able to reach a certain level, but also you don't want to constantly be accommodating to all the changes that other people bring to you, because you won't feel grounded
Mm,
and you won't be able to tolerate the changes you need to make, because you'll feel very swayed by what you think everybody else needs you to be to them. So that's why I said having a coach or having a therapist and a coach could be really beneficial to business owners. And sometimes you may not be ready to go to that next level. That is completely fine. You need to learn that about yourself, because maybe, excuse me, maybe that means you have to slow down and do some self development work so that you could work on those blocks before you go to the next level. Because if you get to the next level and you can't manage the abundance, you'll end up sabotaging it.
mm, a word, and that is so true. Um, Look, I appreciate. I'm like you're coughing through it. Like I'm like I don't know if it's the allergies.
Yep, having
Y-
an allergy attack today and just, yeah, not feeling at my best, but didn't want to cancel.
Thank you so much because
Thank you for
this is very
tolerating this.
no. I was there like you're dropping so much gems. It's much needed. Even the establishing the difference between the therapist and the life coach, that part I didn't know. Like, like the therapy deals with past trauma and the coach helps with moving forward in the present. So like just knowing that is like, I get it now. Like, but I know both make sense and is needed, especially as business owners. Um, so we can talk about mental health all day. Okay. But we're not gonna do that. We're not gonna do that. We're gonna let y'all do the work on yourselves. I'm pretty sure y'all got enough to look at yourselves in the mirror and be like, hey, wait, that's me or that's not me. Like, how can I become a better person and how could I show up for myself and my business and improve on my mental health? So Asha, I can't thank you enough for joining this podcast and being here with us. Um, I wanna and then also preparing for the show because you had the answers like clockwork. I was like, okay, so thank you.
I've been doing this a
Before
long time, right? Even doing the public work. So I
yeah.
try to be prepared for it. Thank you for inviting me, and thank you for tolerating my voice as it's going. I'm so sorry, but I hope it came across all right.
You did. You did. Is there any way we our audience can find you? So I'm gonna let you speak out your Instagram handle and how they can support you.
Yes, absolutely. So I'm on all the platforms, including TikTok. I think that's how we started to connect again.
Hmm.
But I'm mostly on Instagram at Asha Tarry Mental, and that's ASHATARRYMENTAL, Asha Tarry Mental. That's where most of my work lays. Um, Also, my website, lifecoachasha.com. People can get my bio there. They can listen to some previous podcasts over the years I've been on. You can also follow me on LinkedIn. That's where a lot of professional groups reach out to me to do virtual workshops for their colleagues and cohorts. I did a lot of mental health and fitness workshops, healing sessions as well during the pandemic. Did that remotely for companies across the globe. Um, so people can also see some written work, articles where I've been featured, and they can book if they need to for panels, discussions, podcasts, magazine expert opinions through my website, lifecoachasha.com. If they would like to book a consultation, I would say wait until I come back online. This is Women's History Month and Social Work Appreciation Month, so I fall into both categories.
Hey.
And I would say in the next couple of days to a week, once I heal, I'll be back online talking about some things in terms of wellness and the intersection of women and people of color. So that way you could, again, get familiar with my work and how I approach it. And then I'll share my Calendly link and people can book there.
Mm, thank you. Thank you so much. I was truly blessed by having you on the show, Asha. And it's
Same.
so
Thank
great to see
you.
you.
You
See your
too.
face.
I'm so glad you're still around doing such great work. And again, thank you so much for inviting me and putting up with me this evening with all that's going on with me personally. But it was definitely great to have my first podcast of the year this year be
Hey,
yours. So thank you,
hey,
Karen.
I appreciate you. Like your time
Oh,
means the most. Like I know how much you're doing. I know what you're doing and how much time it takes to do what it is you're doing, as well as having your allergies and stuff like that. So I did not put up with you or tolerate you. I honored you. Like, thank you. All right.
thank you so much.
So everybody, I'm your host, Karen Tenord, and you have been rocking with or listening to Asha Tarry, life coach Asha. Um, Follow her. All the information will be in the show notes. Thank you so much for listening. Bye. Listen, such an amazing interview. To get more info, go to candidly.com/podcast. Thank you so much for listening. I hope that you got a lot from today. Be sure to rate, review, subscribe, and show back up. Okay, see you in a bit.